Fellowship, a place where many paths meet, where we honor the rich tapestry of spiritual traditions, and where all are welcome to responsibly explore their own connection to the sacred. I am Reverend Leslie Runnels, and I use she, her pronouns, joined today with Laura Prestwich as worship associate. Thank you to accompanist Megan Smith. Maria Lundgren will be our song leader today and choir director today. And then Karen and Dan are making sure all of the technical stuff works beautifully today. Good luck, guys. If you are visiting us for the first or second time today, would you raise your hands that we may welcome you? All right. And we're going to bring the microphone around. You're welcome to introduce yourself, but you don't have to.
Hey, guys. My name is James, and I'm visiting from Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh, nice. Welcome, James. And then back over there.
Hi, I'm Mel. I like they, them pronouns the best, and I'm visiting from New Bern. Yep, and I'm happy to be here. This is my second time.
Welcome back, Mel. And you can take it over. We'll find out who is joining us on Zoom today.
Hi, Mayor Payson.
Hi, Payson.
And today on Zoom we have the Marsh family, Gary, Karen Reddy, Brian Yance, Susan Roberts, and Lauren Donachi.
Wonderful. Let's wave to our friends at home. We miss you. Wish you were here. All right, and now we are going to settle ourselves here in sacred space, gathered together, and we'll let music guide the way.
Spirit of life, spirit of truth, spirit of wild places. We gathered this morning in a world that is busy with noise, speed, and many levels of distraction. Call us, as Henry David Thoreau once called himself, to the shores of our own inner Walden. Invite us to listen more deeply to the bird song beneath the traffic, to the wisdom beneath our worries, to the quiet voice of conscience beneath the demands of the world. In this hour of worship, may we slow down enough to notice what is true, be brave enough to live what we discover, and compassionate enough to share it with the world. And now, let us speak these words together as one. Come, let us worship together. Alan is going to join us to light our chalice today. our whole system. Small as is our whole system compared with the infinitude of creation. Brief as is our life compared with the cycles of time. We are so tethered to all by the beautiful dependencies of law that not only the sparrow's fall is felt to the uttermost bound, but the vibration set in motion by the words that we utter reach through all space, and the tremor is felt through all time. By Maria Mitchell. We also light our peace candle to remind ourselves that peace is a process that requires work. Peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. And now please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, number 1068 in the teal hymnal, Rising Green.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak, her sap doth run in my veins, boundless my soul like open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, forever have lain. My hands with the weavings of time without end, my sight as deep as the sea, beating my heart sounds the measures of old that have loved eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. My love and my love and my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
Our commitment to building beloved community means that we are called to be glad with those who rejoice and to weep with those who mourn. We set aside this time in our gathering to share with one another the joys and sorrows that are shaping our lives. Should you wish to share a personal joy or sorrow about a person or persons in your life, there is a paper to fill out over there, and we will read it aloud as part of the ritual. This is a sacred ritual that we do in meditative silence, being present to ourselves and to each other, listening to what the silence has to say. So we'll have two lines, one that comes here, one that comes around the edge, and maybe, can we move the little bassinet? Do you mind if Christine will move it just so people can come down that row? You can bring it up. Is that going to work back there? You got it? She got it. Great. So we'll come through here, we'll come around the edge. You select a stone or a shell, place it into the chalice of water to know that it is held in community care. We invite you now to the ritual. So Christine Martin is lifting up Anne, Latanya, Josh of the NAACT LGBTQAI newly formed official committee. Congratulations that is happening. Maria Lundgren asked us to hold her daughter-in-law who suffers from terrible migraines that she may find relief. May she find relief. And it brings me joy that all my neighbors are caring for my neighbor Ed, who is dying of a terrible cancer. May we value the time we have. That comes from Adam. Thank you. Laura is applying to grad school for school librarianship. And she asked that we pray for an acceptance and for funding. And Maria Lundgren also wants to lift up the gratitude she has for the wonderful work of the UCF choir, which we are going to get to see today. So we will all lift the UCF choir up. Okay, so Mel says that I am a proud ankle, which is an aunt and an uncle combined. I also learned today that little Melody, who is our youngest attendee today, is named after Mel. So, it's very sweet. Sarah is lifting up that Alan and Layla, that Alan won excellence at the Arts Council Children's Show for America's 250th. That's incredible. And Layla also participated. So fantastic. That's great. Some artists in our midst. And one more. Oh, this is exciting. Somebody has a birthday on July 9th. Woohoo! Summer is turning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Happy birthday, Summer. You're welcome. This community witnesses and holds your joys and your sorrows, your concerns, even the things that are slowly forming on your heart, those that have not yet been spoken aloud. May you know love, may you know peace, and may you be safe. And now we are adding a little bit to our ritual today. July begins the start of the new church year. And we have some old business from last year that we are going to burn. Yes, it's exciting. Because occasionally this church gets hate mail. You know, sometimes we get some hate mail. And so I have this giraffe vase. Some of you may remember the sermon I did where I talked about how giraffes have the largest heart of the land mammals. And there's a man, Marshall Rosenberg, who came up with this method of communication called nonviolent communication. And so he says, if you listen to what somebody is saying with your biggest giraffe heart, instead of your little jackal ears that are all ready to like pounce and scream and cry, that you might be able to open your heart a little bit bigger and hold whatever's coming. So I have been putting the hate mail that we get into this little giraffe. It's been holding it all year long, and now we're going to let it go. We're not going to read it aloud. We don't need to do that, right? Yeah. So if you will just burn these, we have a wet towel down at the bottom just in case. Careful. Hate mail hurts.
My husband. That feels like a lot.
So much fire.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Some of the letters were a lot. They really were.
Last one.
Yeah.
It's all right here. There it is. There it is. Oh, put her down.
All done.
Beautiful. It's kind of stinky, too. I don't know if it's a good sign or a bad sign, but we got less hate mail this year than the year before. Is that better? Is it worse? I don't know. Okay, so now we have our time for all ages, and we're going to have a little video. If anybody wants to bring a little chair forward to watch the video, but y'all are all pretty close up front. But I want to tell you before the video starts. Yeah, you want to get a chair? Come on. Yeah. She's a strong girl carrying two at once. All right. Payson, do you want to sit up in a chair with us? All right. Beautiful. So I want to tell you about a man, and this is a long, long time ago. His name is Henry David Thoreau. Not Thoreau, but Thoreau. And he went to go live in the woods when he was 27 years old. Why do you think he might go live in the woods? Tell me.
Because he wants to explore.
He wants to explore. What do you think, Odin? Because he wants to explore, right. Summer, why do you think someone would go live in the woods? Yeah, to see the animals in the outside. Yeah. Anybody else have any idea why someone would want to go live in the woods? Yeah. To escape the responsibilities? Yes, indeed. Anybody else? Yeah. Say it again. Oh, to go camping. Yeah, camping is great to be out in the woods. And you kind of have a lot less stuff, right? So you just have a lot less you have to take care of. And it costs less. Yeah. And not as much. Yeah, absolutely. So that's right. There were no screens back then, that's for sure. So, okay, I'm going to tell you what he did. He went to the woods and he did exactly all those things you said. He thought, he looked at the birds, he looked at the trees, and he wrote about it. And he wrote a lot of essays about what it's like to live out there. Now, he didn't write this video we're getting ready to see, but I think if he knew he was writing for children, he would have written this video. So, now you can play it. Thank you.
Hey there! Are you ready to hear a story?
Let's Go on a Hike by Katrina Liu and illustrated by Hiro Sutawan. What a beautiful day! Let's all go on a hike. Spend some time outdoors, which I'm sure you will like. With our boots made for hiking, we'll keep a good pace and spread plenty of sunscreen to shield your sweet face. Oh, I almost forgot. Could you hand me my hat? There'll be lots of great sunshine. What's better than that? Here we are. What a place. Now, where shall we explore? On the map, there's a river. Let's go to its shore. What's the fun in all this? It's just bushes and dirt. Dad, I'm hot and my feet are beginning to hurt. If you follow me closely, I think you'll agree I have something of use that will help you to see. Oh, binoculars! Thanks, Dad! How handy are these? They will help me to see past the dirt to the trees. Look, a beautiful feather! Bright blue! That's so rare! Can you see it now, Archie? It's right over there! These binoculars rock! They are really the best! See, that tree has a bluebird! She's building her nest! It's bath time for Bunny. He likes to keep clean. So fluffy and puffy, the cutest I've seen. Let's get closer, so slow. Aw, we scared the poor thing. But we'll learn the tree's age just by counting the rings. See those ants form a line as they march homeward bound, bringing food to their families deep in the ground. Some are carrying leaves. They are strong little guys. They can often lift things more than 10 times their size. Look, a scampering squirrel. His cheeks hold a snack. Archie, don't chase it. Hey, stop! No, come back! I can see a big sign, Mom. It says to turn right. It's the way to the river. It's almost in sight. We've made it, and now we are having a blast. All that fun in the sun made the time go so fast. On the river, those lily pads gleam in the sun. I can see a green frog that is sitting on one. Hey, I found some flat rocks. These are perfect for me. Watch them skip in the water. This one got to 3. Well, it's time to head back. What a wonderful day. I see orange and pink as the sun fades away. There's no doubt we have many adventures ahead, but right now let's go home and get ready for bed. The end.
Great story. What a great story. Thank you very much. Those are some strong kiddos. As we sing the blessing song this morning, children and youth are invited to go to their religious education classes. Please join me in singing them out. It's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. What you know about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty you love be what you do, and you don't have to do it alone. It's a blessing I was born, and it matters what I do. What I know about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty I love be what I do, and I don't have to do it alone. It's a blessing we were born, and it matters what we do. What we know about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty we love be what we do, and we don't have to do it alone. Cha-cha-cha.
We invite you into a moment of silence and meditation where we will sit in breathing meditation together, and then we will sing a meditation hymn together. So close your eyes if you'd like, and we will take 3 deep, slow inhales and exhales together. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and out. And one more deep inhale and an exhale.
This song has a couple of parts, and if you'd like to keep that meditative stillness going, you might like to sing this part. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Thank you. Now we're going to listen for the melody line, which is, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Good. And we'll put those two together. We start with when I breathe, and then the drone comes in with breathe in. 1, 2, 3. When I breathe, breathe in. I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Once more. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Thank you.
Y'all did that really well. Felt really good. For most of my life, I've been pronouncing Henry David Thoreau's name incorrectly. I grew up saying Thoreau. But it turns out that in Concord, Massachusetts, where he is from, it is pronounced Thoreau, like Thoreau and Thoroughfares, which is why the sermon title is Thoroughfares with Thoreau. I will try to say it right all the time. I won't. But it feels strangely appropriate, because if there is one thing Thoreau did, he lived thoroughly. He paid attention thoroughly, he walked thoroughly, he questioned thoroughly, he wrote thoroughly. And perhaps that's one reason we're still talking about him more than 160 years after his death. Thoreau was born on July 12th, so he would have a birthday coming soon, in 1817. In Concord, Massachusetts, which is a small New England town that became the center of his life's work and is known as one of the birthplaces of American transcendentalism. He graduated from Harvard in 1837, and after graduation, he landed a prize job as a teacher. He didn't even last 2 weeks. In his defense, he left because his supervisor reprimanded him for not beating his students with a cane to discipline them. That's right. Thoreau formed a close relationship with Ralph Waldo Emerson, who introduced him to a circle of writers and thinkers who would become known as the Transcendentalist. While Thoreau never liked labels, he embraced the movement's central convictions that every person has direct access to truth through intuition, that nature is a sacred teacher, and that the individual conscience should never be surrendered to social convention or unjust authority. We're with him. On July 4th, in 1845, so yesterday marked 181 years ago, at the young age of 27, Thoreau moved into a small cabin he built on land owned by Emerson beside Walden Pond, just outside of Concord. He lived there for a little over 2 years, conducting what he called an experiment in living deliberately. simplifying his life to discover what was truly essential. His time at Walden became the basis of his masterpiece titled Walden, subtitled, or Life in the Woods. And that was published in 1854. During those same years when he was doing that, he spent a night in jail for refusing to pay a poll tax that supported slavery and the Mexican-American War. This experience inspired his influential essay titled Civil Disobedience, which is very good. You should all read it. That essay that he wrote was read by Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. and influenced how they led their movements. Thoreau continued studying the natural world until his death from tuberculosis at the early age of just 44. He was not wildly celebrated during his lifetime, but his vision of simple living, the reverence for nature, his moral courage, and faithful resistance to injustice has inspired generations of environmentalists, spiritual seekers, and movements for justice, including many within Unitarian Universalism. And since we're in a Unitarian Universalist congregation this morning, we UUs have a habit of sometimes claiming famous people as UUs if they attended a single UU service or even merely expressed a vaguely UU-ish notion. In the case of Thoreau, his parents were members of the Unitarian Church called First Parish Concord, which today is a thriving 700-member congregation. Thoreau was baptized there as an infant and even catechized, yes, as a young child. And keep in mind that today's UU congregations, which were founded in or before the 19th century, were in Thoreau's childhood all Christian congregations. It was the transcendentalist movement that Thoreau grew up to become a part of, and later the humanist movement of the early 20th century. That increasingly widened Unitarian Universalism to fully embrace both modern science and all the world's religions. That's big additions to our faith, big improvements to our faith. Reverend Dr. J. Carl Gregg studied Thoreau and shares this. During Thoreau's childhood, the Unitarian controversy that started at Harvard in 1805 was slowly playing out. Specifically, when he was 10, there was a schism in his childhood congregation of First Parish Concord between the Unitarians and the Trinitarians. So the Trinitarians believe in God, the Father, the Holy Ghost, or Holy Spirit, right? That's the Trinity. They believe in that. Unitarians kind of believed that that is all one thing. And so Unitarians, before they were called Unitarians, were oftentimes called anti-Trinitarians. They didn't like being anti-something, so they changed to Unitarian, okay? So there's this rival going around about which one's right and which one's wrong. So when his mother's sisters joined the rival congregation, Thoreau's mother at first resigned her membership at First Parish to join them. But when she found that her free-thinking religious views were not welcome among the Trinitarians, she returned to the family pew at the Unitarian Church, where she and her husband remained members for the rest of their lives. Thoreau did not. If you visit First Parish Concord today, they still have the letter in which Thoreau officially resigned his membership when, as an adult, he was presented with a tax bill for the support of a minister he did not like. I have some thoughts about that. Thoreau had health issues and at a number of points in his life, and he died from tuberculosis in 1862. But by all accounts, he maintained a remarkable equanimity and good humor and self-possession until the end, when Thoreau's Calvinistic aunt felt obliged to ask, "Henry, have you made your peace with God?" The unruffled Thoreau mildly replied, "I did not know we had ever quarreled." And near the end, when a friend asked how he felt about death, Thoreau replied, "One world at a time." Preparing this sermon brought back memories of first reading Thoreau in college. Somehow, in my mind and my experience, Walden Pond became intertwined with two films that came out around that same time, On Golden Pond and A River Runs Through It. Neither is about Thoreau, but all three invite us to see nature not as scenery, but as teacher. Lakes, rivers, and ponds become places where we confront mortality. We confront family dynamics. We embrace forgiveness and the question of how to live intentionally. Whenever I think of Thoreau now, I think of water and of paying attention before life slips away. I reflect on those relationships, that mortality, that forgiveness, and the way that lakes, rivers, and wild places can shape our inner lives. When I think of Thoreau, and consequently these two movies, I think of quiet conversations by a lake. I think of rivers carrying us through generations. I think of fathers and children. I think of nature as both companion and teacher. And I think about the stories we tell ourselves about independence. Because all three stories, Walden Pond, On Golden Pond, and the Blackfoot River, invite us to imagine what it means to live deliberately, to pay attention to the life we have. One thing I have come to appreciate more as I've grown older is how often our culture tells us stories of solitary heroes. We imagine Thoreau alone at Walden Pond, building his cabin with his own hands and living entirely through self-reliance. But the historical reality is more interesting and more truthful. The land belonged to Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Concord was just a short walk away. Friends visited regularly. His mother, Cynthia Dunbar Thoreau, often brought food and supplies. His sisters Helen and Sophia were part of the family economy that sustained him. So they were working and earning money that was used to purchase the food and supplies that came to him in his cabin. After his death, it was his sister Sophia who painstakingly preserved his manuscripts, edited the work, and helped ensure that future generations would have access to his readings. Much of what we know as Thoreau exists because of her labor. Thoreau had many early failures and struggles in his early aspirations to be published author. Margaret Fuller, who was also one of the Transcendentalist Three, used her position at the Dial, which was a Transcendentalist publication at the time, and she became Thoreau's first editor. Although she accepted one of the first poems he submitted for publication, she also wrote a rejection letter that said she hoped to publish the essay eventually, but while it was rich in thoughts, in its present form, these thoughts seem to me so out of their natural order that I cannot read it through without pain. Ouch! But every writer needs someone willing to tell the truth. Fuller helped Thoreau become the writer we remember today. Once again, the familiar story of a solitary genius turns out to be a story of community and interdependence. Therefore, the story of Walden is not merely a story of independence, it is a story of interdependence. Like so many stories in history, the labor of women helped make the achievement possible, even when their names faded into the background. The myth of the solitary genius obscures the network of care that his experiment required. The famous experiment in self-reliance rested on a foundation of relationships. And perhaps that is the lesson for our own time now. We live in a culture that celebrates the individual hero, the self-made person, the lone genius, the rugged individualist who pulled himself up by his bootstraps. But we know if we look at that term, bootstrap, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, comes from the story of somebody trying to go over a fence by pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. And so it came to be known as someone is attempting or has claimed some ludicrously far-fetched or impossible task. But we say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And behind almost every great life full of great impossible tasks is a community of care. Often that care is provided by women whose labor becomes invisible in the retelling. Thoreau did not build his legacy alone, and neither do we. None of us gets to Walden by ourselves. Thoreau famously wrote, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately." For me, the question is not whether we go to the woods, though that is a fine place, please go. The question is whether we are living deliberately wherever we find ourselves. Right here in this community together, at home with our families full of family dynamics, out in the wider community where we have people that we don't always agree with, and out in the world as we explore other cultures. The questions are we awake to the gifts around us, and how hard it can be to recognize those gifts when we are under the foot of fascism and interlocking oppressions? The question is whether we notice the people whose labor sustains us. All summer long here at Unitarian Coastal Fellowship, we are going to be lifting up the volunteers who make this church welcoming, clean, holy, and progressive. Because no labor should be invisible. The question is whether we remember that solitude and community are not opposites. In those two movies and the writings of Thoreau, nature is never just the scenery. Water becomes a mirror. The pond reflects our lives back to us. The river carries generations forward. And Walden Pond invites us to ask whether we are truly awake to the life we are living. Perhaps that is why these stories are blended together in my memory. They all ask us to live more deliberately, to notice more deeply, and to remember that no life is lived alone. The older I get, the more I read Walden, not as a celebration of radical independence, but as a reminder to be intentional about our interdependencies. Here on this earth, with one another, in community, and on the often unseen labor that sustains our lives. Thoreau's famous line about living deliberately is often read as an invitation to withdraw from society. But he never really withdrew. He walked into town frequently. He hosted abolitionist meetings at the cabin, because remember, this is before slavery had been ended. He maintained extensive, deep, meaningful friendships. His life suggests that complementation and social engagement are also not opposites. The pond and the public square belong together. In all three stories, nature is not an escape from relationship. It is the setting where relationships become clear. The pond may have taught Thoreau about simplicity, but the people around him taught him how to live. In closing, I share a passage that he wrote in Walden. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I want to practice resignation unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. And if it proved to be mean, why then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. Or if it were sublime, to know it by experience. May we continue to build the sublime together. Amen. All right, I said in the sermon that we are going to be recognizing some of the invisible labor that happens in this congregation. So we are going to recognize our worship arts team. I'm going to see if I can turn around here so I can read it. So Karen Baggett, who is here, raise your hand. Jace Pesh, who is not with us today but is oftentimes with us. Jackie Burns, who's back there in the back. Megan Smith on piano. Maria Lundgren. And Mark Cooper, who is not here today. They make up our worship arts team. And we can always use more people to help us think about what we are crafting together. Our choir director and UCF choir, led by Maria Lundgren. Yes, indeed. And those of you who are in the choir, would you raise your hands? Boom, 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 boom. Look at them all. I love it. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for what you sing to the church. And then our AV tech team includes Susan Roberts, Barb Thomas, Dan Phillips, Harriet Altman, Brittany Stemminger, Martha Kenworthy, and Karen Baggett on today. Thank you both. I think we have another slide. Right, so we have greeters. We have a lot of greeters here, and it's typically, the greeters are kind of led by the membership team, which is Penny Hooper and Martha Kenworthy and Barb Thomas and Susan Roberts, I think. So Penny and Mark Hooper, Holly Rogers and Marty Newcomb back there, Amy and Lee Harrison. And how about anybody else in here who's been a greeter? Would you raise your hands? Yes, here, there. Yes, absolutely. And greeting is not a hard job. You are welcome to come sign up to do that anytime. And then coffee hour, Sandy Parker. Yes. She's kind of been leading us in this and making sure that we get people signed up for every Sunday. And they come in, I think at 9:30, so they're here an hour before worship starts. They're getting all the things done back there. I looked at the list of the things that they do, and actually this is on Sandra's list, which is, you know when you drink coffee out of a coffee mug, eventually the mug, even though you wash it in the dishwasher, it gets stained. So one of the jobs of the people that clean at this church is to look at the coffee mugs and see if they need a scrubbing, right? This is about being welcoming. That's all it is, about being welcoming and providing a clean place. If you've ever made coffee here, raise your hands. There they are, yes, plenty. Yes, thank you all. We know that coffee is a sacrament to Unitarian Universalists because they took away the wine. And then worship helpers. I found out about worship helpers because sometimes when I come in, the bowl is filled with water and I don't know how it happens. And the little starter candle over here is already lit. So there's a group called worship helpers and I don't know who they are. But if you've ever been a worship helper, would you please raise your hands? Yes, yes. See, they're very hidden. We're going to find out who they are so that this is not hidden labor. And the laundry team. Okay, so in our bathrooms, we don't have paper towels. We have hand towels. They go into a bin, and every week somebody comes home, picks them up, and takes them home and washes them and brings them back the next week. That's how we live some of our values. That's part of the Green Sanctuary Initiative. So if you have ever been a laundry helper who brought home towels to wash, would you please raise your hands? Jackie and Joellen. I know that and Sandra. Lauren Donahue does it a lot. Susan Roberts does it a lot. Barb Thomas does it a lot, right? It's just one of those things that, people do to keep this place going, but you might never know. And then the security team. So we put the security team together, I think, last year, because we were getting a fair amount of hate mail, and some of it was rather directive, and so we said maybe we should, put things in place. Plus, we also knew we were under a fascist government, and that Unitarian Universalists are resisting that, so that is going to bring something down on us. So we have two people who have walkie-talkies. They make sure that the doors are locked 15 minutes after the service. Sometimes they stay out there and watch. Wes, I don't know if you can hear me, but there he is. Thank you so much, Wes. Wes comes to church, and the great thing is because we have the microphone or the speakers on in the other rooms, that Wes still gets to hear what's happening, but he gets to keep an eye on the children who are back there, that they are safe, that we are safe, that the parking lot is safe, all of that. So thank you so much for your work. I think that was my last slide on that. Is that true? Yes. Okay, beautiful. And now we are going to invite the UCF choir to the chancel for our special music today.
Not like the brazen giants, 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 not like the stripes of joy to show, not like the brazen giants.
When
Every month, we share the plate with a community organization. Share the Plate for July is for Beaufort Sugar Snaps. They are a newly established service organization, and their initiative began during a time of great need, the temporary suspension of SNAP benefits. Recognizing the impact on families and children, they united with a shared goal to provide reliable food support for kids in our community. To aid children at Beaufort Elementary School, they deliver shelf-stable meal kits every weekend. Their mission is to support the community by offering food assistance to ensure that our children do not go without the nourishment they deserve. Please give from your own well of generosity. I now invite the greeters forward to collect our offering. Please join in blessing this offering with hymn number 402, From You I Receive. We will sing it through twice. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. Now please join me in reading our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now in español. Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad, o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón hasta que estemos juntos otra vez.
It is UCF tradition to join hands and form something around the edges of the congregation of the sanctuary that is something like a circle. If you prefer to stay in the middle and be surrounded by love, please do so. All right, we're going to need to stretch around that way a little bit. All right. I think everybody's getting linked up. Okay, we have everybody. Beautiful. In some of Thoreau's own words, go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. May you step to the music which you hear, however measured or far away, keeping peace with your neighbor and truth in your heart. Go in peace, and may your days be rich with the simplest of pleasures. Amen. Marty's always woo at the end. Thank you, love. I appreciate that.
yet again choosing the perfect sermon to hit me right where I needed to be hit.